When literacy level was extremely low and access to information was next to nothing. Fast forward to today, where the access to information is extremely high and the literacy level has improved. So what pertains then certainly doesn't carry now. So the image and the lies and the propagandas that have been fed to the people, creating, like I said, this false narrative that Michael has done the best thing for Jamaica, that is now being challenged. And it is being challenged by just about everybody. People who are aligned to the Jamaica Labour Party and people who are just common citizens, people in the corporate world, people everywhere start to realize that they have been fed a steady diet of misinformation over the years. The claims, some of which is just an open lie. The PNP has constantly make it seem as though some of the best times in Jamaica was under their leadership, right? So if we were to go back to the 1950s, where Bauxite was king, 40s coming into 50s, 60s, Bauxite was king, our economy in Jamaica grew like no other. Like no other. And like the great man himself, Cliff Hughes, said in a commentary recently, there are certain countries now from which we take products and equipment and stuff. There are certain countries that were worse than us back in the 60s and 70s. But because we went off road, we lost our way under Michael. And even today, we're still trying to find our way back. That's how devastating that thing was. The argument that I want to make is to explain to people why it is that I personally believe that the PNP should never be re-elected in Jamaica. And here's why. Because it's quite simple, you know. If you take the era since 1962, since we became an independent nation, and you look at the growth in the economy and the growth in the population and the growth in the economy, you would recognize that from 1962 until today, every period in which the PNP would have led this country, the economy declined and the standard of living for persons went down. Now, if what I am saying is true, then why should one elect the PNP? From 1962 right up until now, let's go back and look at all the period in which the GLP would have managed the economy and the PNP managed the economy. And you can decide. In 1972, well, in the late 60s, 68 into 70, 72, the economy grew. I think it was the highest growth in our economy, somewhere in the region of 12 to 14%. Certainly in 1972, when the JLP lost the elections, the PNP got an economy growing at about 9.5% or close to that. And from 1972 to 1975, we were broke. We didn't have the money. The country broke because we had a leader at the time who just was lost. He was caught up with his own personal ideology to the extent that he couldn't see the big picture. Right? And this is what people fail to understand. Had it been an Andrew Holness in 1972, Jamaica today would be a first world country. Jamaica would be a first world country had it been a leader with the foresight and vision like an Andrew Holness. Jamaica would be a first world country today. And I'll tell you why. In the 1960s, when Bauxite was king, we brought in some of the major investors into Jamaica, some of the largest mining companies from North America into Jamaica, and started to mine bauxite and export it out of here. Now, at the time, that perhaps was the best thing that could have been done with the natural resources that was discovered. Had it been Andrew Holness, who was leading Jamaica at the time, we would have engaged these persons, these huge bauxite companies that were in Jamaica at the time, could have been engaged, and a discussion could have been had whether or not it was the best thing to export bauxite out of Jamaica or to set up shop here to complete the end products right here in Jamaica. But those discussions were never had. Those discussions were never had because, for whatever it's worth, the powers that be at the time, Joshua chose to go to these bauxite companies and say, look here, eggs are young ones. You either pay a tariff or you go out. Because they're so narrow-minded that they couldn't see. They couldn't see what China saw. When the Americans went to China and set up shop, thinking that they were going to exploit them for labor, sweatshops and to build products, the Chinese capitalized on that opportunity and changed their standard of living from being the poorest country in the world to become the second largest growing economy on earth, because they saw a future in what others saw as oppression or as exploitation. Michael Manley at the time figured more than less that the bauxite companies coming into Jamaica were just coming here to take our bauxite and export it out of the country. So instead, what he did was to put a levy on them and say, pay more money. So he gets more cash in his pocket to distribute for his cronies, and the rest of the country suffer. So the country lacked foresight back in the 70s under Michael Manley, because if he had engaged those bauxite companies, 3 or 4 of them, right, and said to them, look, instead of exporting this bauxite out to Russia and to whomever, why not bring the factories here and build the products that you're taking this out to build it here so my people can benefit? But when you not have no negotiating skills and all you depend on is arrogance, the arrogance gets you the result. It gets you the same result you got, because you believe that arrogance is the order